step up and get it. Lace up, face up, I'm here to win it. It's for my city, and the team coming with me. Headed for the championship, even if the road is long. Legends pave the way for us. Since nothing in this world can take it from us. Don't underestimate our generation when you see us coming for ya. And when you knock me down, I'm getting back up. Cause when I step on the floor, you know your time's up. I'm on my way.
Detroit basketball.
What up, though, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the King and Deuce Show. Hope everybody is having a good Tuesday night as of thus far. My dude, Eric Vincent, Clutch Points beat writer for our Detroit Pistons, is back like he never left. What is the word, E. Vinny? How we feeling, bro?
I'm good, man. It's been a crazy day outside, but happy to be in a little cool area now and ready to talk some hoops. How's everything with you?
Man, another scorcher, bro.
Yeah.
Hope y'all keep on hydrated out there, like we said yesterday, man. This heat is not playing around, and it came with a vengeance. You got your water? Yeah, I got my water. So
We tapped in today.
we tapped in. We should be good. Locked and loaded, man. We got all y'all in the chat. We see y'all, man. Marvin, per use. Devon, what's going on, man? I'm here looking like a burnt cookie. Man, you and me both, bro. You and me both, man. Get out the sun. Get out the sun if you can. Real thankful that Trajan is transparent. Yes, man, we are going to get into all of that. Like we mentioned, our boy Eric Vincent was in the building today for the pre-draft presser. So we're going to get into that. It was held today with Trajan Langdon, Pistons GM. He talked about a few different things. A lot of good questions were asked. Shout out to all the beat writers and reporters out there who were in the building as well. And Eric was also in the building to cover it all and to bring it to us. And we appreciate you, bro, keeping us up to speed. So talk to us, bro. Like, what are some of the takeaways you had from Trajan's presser today? I have a few things I want to get to, but I want to focus on what you had since you were actually there, and then we'll go from there. So what you got for us?
Yes, indeed, man. Kind of like I just told you, Trajan kind of set the scene pretty quickly. He's got kind of a dry sense of humor to him. So as soon as he came in the room, the very first thing out of his mouth was, "All right, guys, I'm gonna be boring today." Y'all got a nice little laugh out of that. But I feel like I kind of did learn some stuff. While a lot of people's reaction on social media may have been, I guess, disappointed or not so much shocked by what he said, I still do think that he told us a little bit about himself, because while we talk a lot about the team, he's probably the one name that we don't talk about a ton just because we don't see him a lot. But I like what he said today. He came out the gate, kind of acknowledging, where the team is right now, how they're preparing for the draft. One of the first questions out of the gate was kind of, what do you see in terms of the landscape of the team with the development based on what we've seen with the Eastern Conference through a lot of injuries that we've seen from Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard. Like, we've seen a lot of guys go down. We've seen a lot of change, like coming back and forth with the team or in the conference, excuse me. And he admit that, it definitely has changed, or at least provoked some internal thoughts about how we can get better. Now, he followed up and said, we're not looking to make a huge splash right away, but he didn't rule out the possibility of making some certain changes. Like I said before, like, he may not be out there like as the initiator making calls, but it doesn't mean he's not open to possibilities. And I think he kind of stated that today, which I was, pretty happy to hear, at least from his part. He even talked more about the veterans as well, because as of after the finals, that's when you can actually start talking to veterans and free agents, once the NBA season is concluded. So he stated that he's tried to have some of those conversations. Aiden's is a little tough, he said, so it hasn't really been a whole lot of wiggle room at the moment. But he said he has tried to have those conversations, and he's also brought up the idea of having a backup plan to those free agents and those veterans, just in case they can't come to a number and agree on something. He stated he was really high on building through the internal growth of their team. We talked a lot about what we saw from the finals with OKC winning, and obviously they're a team that won without making a huge splash right away. In the free agency trade market, they kind of added a couple like little role players there and relied on guys like Chet, SGA, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, like kind of some of their OG guys that they brought in originally. So he says he sees that kind of being the direction of the league as of right now. and he's happy about the work that he's seen from his guys in the offseason so far and what they showed as soon as last season and in the playoffs as well without Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart, which he even said, hey, if they were there, that even piqued my mind of where we could have been in the postseason. Like a lot of like that fan speak. We think, oh, if Jaden were there, if Isaiah, like he kind of still thinks like a fan to some extent, and I like that about him as well. But yeah, he dropped a lot of good knowledge. Again, he kind of just reiterated that he wanted to remain patient, but he is keeping his eyes and ears open to any possibilities that could make the team better, because obviously that's his first frame of mind and his biggest priority as the president of basketball operations.
100%, man. You said a mouthful. A lot of good stuff there, bro, for sure. So let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned just how he was talking about basically when it comes to the core of this team and what the plan may be regarding looking around and seeing what's happening in the Eastern Conference, right? The moves that are being made, how the trajectory is changing and things like that. I actually have a clip we can play here that was posted for my Instagram account earlier talking about exactly what you just said. So let's go ahead and check that out, and we can kind of get all get a feel for what he was saying. So let's go ahead and check that out.
I think it's definitely provoked some thought internally in terms of what we can do to get better. I think it hasn't changed the roadmap for us. I don't think we're in a place to push all of our chips in and be locked into a place who still want to keep that optionality. I think our guys have been in the gym working a lot. They want to get better. So I think we will see growth from our young players from this year to next year. And I think that's ultimately what's really important for us, because if those guys get better, we'll ultimately get better and keep our ear to the ground and see if there's opportunities to get better without pushing all of our chips in. We'll keep our ear to the ground on ways that we can improve, but improvement for us is more internal. I think if we can keep some of the guys that we had as part of this run, some of the vets, that would be great. We know they're going to get interest from other teams as well. As we look to keep them, we'll also have to have backup options as well. Depth is important in this style of play. The game's getting faster, it's getting bigger. The whole league is saying that, and I think we have some players that fit that on our roster right now. Continuing to improve and develop our young players, I think, is going to be paramount for us going forward, and continue to add pieces around that fit and can enhance their development.
So I thought that was pretty much in the nutshell of what you said. It were some things that kind of stood out to me with what he was saying there. And like you mentioned, we talked about it yesterday, just the importance of having balance and having a balanced roster. He did mention that he kind of looked around with watching the finals and just I'm sure that's what GMs do when it comes to watching games and just looking at the roster construction, seeing how the rotations are set up and how the guys are playing within their style, all those things. So I'm sure he saw that and saw something that we talked about is just the importance of having depth. And he mentioned that as far as having a deep team. And you look at this Pistons team and we kind of have that foundation already as far as having that depth. You know, we know our bench last season was a strength. So that's something that I know he's for sure keeping in mind when it comes to making moves, whatever they may be. Like you mentioned, he's going to keep his eyes open for absolute sure. But at the same time, he's not going to mortgage, and sell the farm and pretty much put that depth at a disadvantage and take it away, basically. Lose a lot of that depth if you make a move for, certain guys that I know fans are looking to add. So it's very important that we keep that in mind. And he made it pretty clear, even though he didn't say it in specifics, he just made the point that, we're going to try to keep our young core intact. And we're going to try to see how we can improve if the right situation presents. Because he did mention the Bane trade, the Desmond Bane move, right? And how he thought that was a good move for them. Yeah. So, he said, if that kind of move presents itself, we'll look at it. So once again, to your point, they are keeping their options open. He mentioned optionality. He mentioned that a few times I saw it. I'm sure you heard that being in the building. He wants to make sure that they have the flexibility to be able to go in a few different directions, regardless of what's going on. So I thought he had a lot of great things to say, and it kind of pretty much reinforces what we already talked about. So it's going to be an interesting offseason, bro, when it comes to how he kind of puts those words into action and to kind of see what he meant by those words based on who he does or doesn't add to the squad. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the best way to look at it. A lot of these names and a lot of these, people that are talking about a splash and a big move, again, it's going to come at the cost of these pieces. And when he's harping in on depth, and if you're looking at teams in the league like OKC, Indiana, a lot of teams in the playoffs, like maybe outside maybe the New York Knicks, they play and lean on their depth to, proceed in the postseason and win these games. So being able to cash in your chips for a player makes sense in theory, but if you don't have depth to go with it, then you're in trouble. We've seen that with Kevin Durant's last 2 or 3 teams that he's been on. When you don't have teams or teammates to kind of back you up and weather the storms or the breaks that you guys have when they're sitting down or as they're getting older, like that matters. You have to have some kind of depth behind your foundation to make sure they're in line. And the Pistons haven't. As this last season, they definitely did. They did a good job of, adding some good rotation pieces together. And I feel like those are the areas in the margin that he was speaking of trying to improve on or keep around. Like he wants to, he didn't say this, but I feel like this is the best way to put it. It's kind of a make or break year for some of those pieces in the young core. Like they have a lot to prove this season in terms of what their future is going to be based on what he said, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But, I like that's where his head is at. Like people saying, oh, just cash in on Giannis or cash in. Like, bro, those names sound good in theory, but if you don't have a team around them and if they get injured and something goes bad, then you're in trouble. So I like where his head is at. And I think that's kind of the best area for the Pistons to be moving as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a couple teams that come to mind just off top as far as having good starting fives, but when they get to their benches, that's really when they start to get exposed, especially in playoffs. Teams like the Timberwolves, and they have a strong starting five. Think about the Knicks, strong starting five, but when those teams go to the benches against teams like the Pacers and the Thunder, who have depth, that's really when you see the lack of depth that those initial teams had. And I think that is what we should be trying to stay away from. We are already on a trajectory of having the depth. Now we just got to see if some of these young guys can become the stars to go along with having that depth. And guys like Cade, guys like Jaden, guys like Ausar, guys like JD, the young core, what can they bring us to add to the depth that we already have? So I think going the other way would kind of take a step back with what they're trying to do, and it would change their identity and then put them in the conversation with the Timberwolves and the Knicks as far as having those good starting fives, but not having the depth. And we saw how that played out for them. So got to look at how the trend is going and kind of make the adjustments based on how teams are constructed and how teams are winning around that construction.
Right. You don't want to be the next team making that next Mikal Bridges pick or that next Rudy Gobert pick. Like, you don't want to see that. Like, we talk about the young core all the time. And while there may be a difference in some opinions, I don't think, again, maybe some may disagree, but I don't feel like any of the young core pieces are behind in their development based on what we've seen and how they're playing. Again, a lot of guys can do better. A lot of guys can show, areas of improvement in some areas. Cade as well, everybody in the young core included. But as of right now, based on what we saw last season, I think they're right on schedule or maybe even ahead of it at this point, with it being able to, answer some of the questions around their game, like, Ivy's jump shot, Duran's defense, the stability of Ausar, Cade just all around game, his health, Isaiah Stewart transitioning to the bench. We saw good things from all of those guys. And considering it got them into winning basketball, this isn't the time to be tinkering around with that and just blowing it all up. Now, again, keep your mind and eyes open, because I'm sure even teams like the Lakers, I'm sure they didn't have any idea of blowing up the core that they had until Dallas called them about Luka. So, again, just because Trajan isn't the aggressor or the one calling out about these deals, it doesn't mean he's not open to it. So, again, I like where they're at. I think they're in an advantageous position with the young guys, being the ones that you can lean on for this development. And I feel like they're in the perfect position to kind of stick with what they're doing. And who knows, maybe by the deadline, because he also said, like, hey, we know a conversation is going to be had. We know a conversation is going to be had at some point. So maybe at the deadline, maybe next season, like whatever it is, it's going to come. But as of right now, I think looking at this season is kind of make or break for some of these guys.
No, you made a great point. He may not be the aggressor, but that doesn't mean the move is not going to be made. We always talk about the Rasheed Wallace trade. If there's a Rasheed Wallace type of trade available, you can bet that Trajan is going to seriously look at that for sure. And to go along with that, Ethan just said, 04 squad had a bench that wasn't the same in the years following. Depth has always mattered 100%. And that's why in 05 they lost, because they lost 3 or 4 pieces off of their bench that had they had them, they would have repeated. So it's always been important. It's always going to be important. The days of the top heavy teams are over at this point, at least for now. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Marvin says he's claiming a Fontecchio bounce back season. Hey, if he's here long enough to prove it, that's going to be the key. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he had a down year and he's able to bounce back. But I just don't know if he's going to be here to prove it. We'll see. We'll see if he remains on the roster. Take a look at it. But yeah, we'll see. Check that out. All right, man. Let's keep it moving. Let's move to. I had another soundbite that we're going to take a look at, and this was regarding. Trajan was asked on if he was asked the Pistons' outcome against the Knicks could have been different if they were healthy. Basically, meaning had they had a healthy Isaiah Stewart, had they had a healthy Jaden Ivey, and this is what he had to say about that.
Ever crossed your mind during that series that man, you can have these two guys?
Oh, of course. Yeah, especially with Stu. You know, in January the JI is going to be out, but with Stu, you just think that enforcer in the second unit around the rim could have really helped us. But we are also fortunate that we had Paul. I think if we would have had a guy not as talented as Paul coming off the bench, another player would have held water like Paul did for us at that time. So.
Interesting stuff, man. It's something that we've kind of heard. We've kind of been saying ourselves, and we heard the fan base kind of saying it too. What if? It was always that what if. What would have happened had we had those guys available? We know Stu went down early in game one of that series, so we really didn't get a chance to see him or J.I. at all. It was interesting. He mentioned that since January, they already knew J.I. was going to be out. So it seems like the plan for him all along was just to be safe, which is what you always talk about whenever he's asked about things like that. He always leans on the side of caution. Right. So you say that often. So, it's good to know that they're putting that into practice and not rushing anything, even though we didn't win the series. Doesn't matter. Health is always more important. These guys' career long term is always more important. We just saw that with Tyrese Halliburton. You know what I mean? So, yeah, very, 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 very good to hear that from him. Any other thoughts you had on what did to say about that?
Yeah, I like that. Again, he's got like the dry personality, but I do like that he can still kind of open up and kind of speak the language of the fans a little bit. He could have did the easy front office or leadership speak of, hey, no excuses. We had what we had. We didn't fight hard enough. Like, he didn't do that. And I appreciated hearing that from him. That's kind of just the reassurance of, him understanding the fan base, understanding the value of his players and how much value that they do bring to this team. Because 100%, we say it and talk about it all the time. If Stu was available, this is a different outcome. If Ivy's available as well, he's not, nursing a complete snapped leg, then yeah, I think we're having a different conversation right now. I feel like, him being able to own that and kind of speak to it a little bit more openly right now. I thought it was really cool to hear. Again, there were huge pieces of the depth to this young core. They took a lot of great steps in elite ways for this young team. And I feel like they're going to be a big part of what the Pistons do moving forward. So, yeah, I like that he was able to be open and honest about that from his point of view. For sure,
man. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to my cousin, Papa Cuzzo. What's going on, Cuzzo? Appreciate you guys all showing up and showing out, man. Keep the comments coming, man. We definitely see y'all. Chess Ready says Stewart would have mentally dominated Cat. Yeah, it seems like every time he played against him, he just kind of always had this edge on him before they even walked on the court. He just seemed, whenever Stu was coming into the game, it's like, remember that meme of LeBron in 2013 when in the finals when Kawhi was going to come. That's kind of the vibe. That's kind of the vibe I get whenever I see Stu coming to the game when he's guarding Cat. So yeah, just that mental edge, having guys like that are why I think he's going to be here for a long time. That's just something you either have or you don't, and very few guys have it to that level, and he does. Thoughts on that? Go ahead, bro.
I was sick watching Cat. I mean, he was playing really good, but the constant barking and, the trash talk to the bench, to the crowd, it agitated me. Granted, he played well and he, owned up to it and was able to, basically do whatever he wants since they won.
He was.
If Stu was on there, I don't think that's happening. I feel like he's physical enough. He's probably fouling out a couple of those games, but he's going to leave enough of a mark to kind of leave him a little rattled before that game is over. So, would bring Stewie lunch every day
for it, bro, right? You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Taking his lunch money and everything, bro.
That's Seriously. His game. Yeah, I like the physicality of Stu. They definitely missed that. I think Tobias did a good job in his spurts.
He did.
Duren was a little up and down with it, but yeah, I definitely think some of those, especially those miracle threes he was chucking with like the shot clock expired, like some of that just made me sick. So yeah, I don't think some of those land if Isaiah Stewart is playing, but hopefully next season we don't have to go through that again.
I want to give Tobias credit too, because even though I do think we need to get bigger at that 4 spot for that being one of the reasons, playoff matchups and things like that, who we're going to face, it wasn't like he was just like a bad defender against him. He just literally just didn't have the size. I mean, we talked about it even with the Pacers when they played the Knicks. instead of Miles Turner guarding him because he wasn't quick enough to stay in front, they had to put Pascal on Cat. The same way we put Tobias on Cat. So and at times you saw Cat continue to go to work.
Right.
So it's not even just like, and I think Pascal and Tobias are similar in size and height, and I think the measurables are pretty similar, 6'8", 6'9". So I want to give Tobias credit because he battled his tail off. He battled his absolute tail, especially defensively, man. He really gave everything he had. So it wasn't just like he was just getting destroyed. I just would like us to have more size at that position going forward.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people before the series started thinking that was going to be the mismatch that they could just exploit. A lot of the shots he was hitting, again, they were tough shots. It was either deep threes or if he was driving, it was like that awkward step where he would chuck it up high off the glass. Tobias made him work basically for every shot. And they weren't, even when he was hot, they weren't constantly just going back to him on the block and just getting mismatches and going on runs where he was the facilitator of it. He was hitting tough shots that he was basically forced to earn. And I feel like Tobias definitely deserves a lot of credit for that, is because, again, going into that kind of matchup, one of the best shooting bigs we've ever seen, it wasn't going to be an easy matchup for him. And I think he held his own, and he made him work on defense as well by putting up some good numbers on his own side.
Yeah, that's a good point, bro. Organic Lindo says, my guy Stu might have to low manage here and there. He hasn't been able to cross the finish line of the last 3 years. So how many games has he played over the last 3 seasons, Chad? You guys got me curious. I know the year before last, I think he missed some games toward the end of the season, but I don't think he's missed a ton of games over the last few years, unless I'm just missing something.
Yeah, he played, is that true? Wow. He played, so 72 games this year, which is the most he's played his career, 46 last season, 50 the year before, 71 second year, and then 68 the year before that.
Okay. So averaging about 50 to 60, I guess you could say.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a valid point. It's the way he plays the game. But I don't feel like it's anything that would lead me to say he's injury prone. He still seems like he's a pretty durable player. Sometimes it's luck or a lack of it. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to be fine next season, especially with everybody coming back and things like that. And hopefully we add some more size once again, so he doesn't have to do quite as much as he has done the last couple of years. So we'll see. But it's something to keep an eye on for sure. Let's move on, man. Let's talk about, with that, one thing that Trajan did say when talking about the health of those two guys and Jaden and Stu was that he said they'll be ready for camp. That was pretty much it. So he said, so I'm looking forward to those guys being fully healthy, us having a fully healthy roster, and being able to really build some chemistry, build good habits, build camaraderie and consistency and all that stuff. When asked about restricted free agency with Jaden and Jalen Duren, he said, I think that was Omari that asked the question. He said, don't jump the gun. Those guys are not restricted free agents for another year. And then he said, when that time comes, which is later in the summer, we'll have those conversations. Those guys, he definitely does value. He just says, hopefully we can have some really good conversations. But if not, they'll play their years out and we'll see what happens going forward. Did you have any reaction to what he had to say about restricted free agency?
Yeah, I mean, he said that he wanted to have the conversation at the start of this summer. So it's obviously on his mind. It's something that he's digging into and interested in terms of where they land. It feels like he's just kind of checking off all boxes, because we also have heard reports that the Pistons are also interested in a stretch big, which obviously Jalen Duren is not. So he's keeping all options open, which I'm a fan of. I like hearing that he's not in love with anything right now. He wants to keep his, he doesn't want to make decisions with his heart. And being in his position, he can't do that. Like, as fans, as media members, like, we have our own views and emotions of it. He has to kind of remove all that aside. So I like that he's, stated to be open about that. He also stated the same thing I think we just mentioned about the vets as well, going into free agency as well, trying to talk to their agents and, basically trying to open up the dialogue to let them know, like, hey, we're thinking about it. We haven't forgot about you. So yeah, I like that. It's obviously a talking point. It's something important to think about. And I guess we'll see what happens coming up soon.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see because, like he mentioned, he did want to keep some of those guys around, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s, Malik Beasley's of the world, guys like that, Schroeder. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens, who stays, who goes. And I think it's hard to say what's going to happen first, but we may see something like that happen or come to a resolution before he makes any other moves.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to wait and see. You can go either way. So let's move on. The question was asked, is there an unknown what Jaden will be, or are you confident he'll be what you thought he would be? And Trajan Langdon said, never thought the injury will put pressure on Jaden. And he feels that it's his responsibility, Trajan's responsibility, to put Jaden in the best possible situation to be successful. And he said Trajan said he also knows what it's like to play through injuries. And he knows that J.I. is going to want to get back to the level as quickly as possible as he was. And he's been working his butt off. Any reaction to what he had to say about that? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but anything you got for that?
Yeah, I feel like Langdon's very high on what he sees from Ivy. He sees the work ethic. I think he understands the need of what this team has in front of him. You know, he obviously went after it when they needed another ball handler after Ivy's injury, and they went and got Dennis Schroeder. They tinkered around with some lineup stuff, you know, bringing Malik Beasley up as their ball handler, using Ausar as a primary ball handler. Like, they're very aware of what their needs are right now. And I still think he understands the value that Ivy brings to this team, even though he can be somewhat controversial in social media conversations. But I feel like he understands, like, again, what he means to this team and how much they need him. And he, again, also understands, like, where he is in terms of development. They've talked about, you know, how these guys have had to deal with having 2-3 coaches in their young careers and the adjustment it requires to go through that. And when you look at all the young pieces from Cade to Ausar to Duren, you can make the case that Ivy has had more turmoil and adjusting to do than anybody else out of the young core. Going through the Monty Williams situation, coming on and off the bench, dealing with this huge injury, playing on ball as a primary facilitator his rookie year when that really wasn't what he was used to in college. He's gone through a lot of a learning curve since he was drafted in 2022. So, like, I think, again, he understands what he brings to this team, and I like that he's not basically rushing to what people are clamoring for. Some people are clamoring for, which is make a splash, get rid of somebody to bring in a big name. Like, I don't like that thinking. Again, we've agreed moves should happen, but you shouldn't just be rushing the first move. Like, that sounds great in theory. Like, that's how you end up with Josh Smith, and you don't want to do that again. So I like that he's willing to stay patient and kind of use this as another deciding season, especially after what they did last year. I think this is the best way to approach it.
Yeah, it's got to be that. It's got to be the perfect. Not perfect, because very few trades are perfect, but it's got to be very, very ideal to where you're getting enough impact, but it's not too much impact on your depth.
Right.
You know, you're upgrading up front maybe, but your back line is still okay. That's the fine line that I think he's trying to balance. And a lot of these trades we're seeing is compromising one for the other, or helping one and hurting the other. I think he's trying to find that balance of upgrading the starting five, but not hurting the bench too much. And I think that's why I think he's going to be patient. And that's why I think the trade deadline, like Chess Ready just said, may be important to keep an eye on, because that's when a lot of teams who may think they have a chance to push for the playoffs, they may make a win now move that really could hurt them in the future. So that's exactly when the Rasheed Wallace trade happened. I think I saw the live report of him being traded here like 10 minutes before the actual trade deadline in the afternoon. Literally. So the closer you get to the trade deadline, the more you're going to see desperate teams who feel the pressure to get their team to the next level, even if it means sacrificing or making a lopsided trade long term. So that's something to look for. Just kind of look and see what happens. Like we mentioned, like Chess Ready said, like you said, maybe that trade deadline may be a time to keep an eye on. Maybe not right away when the season starts. Go ahead.
Yeah, that feels like the best, at least as of right now, that the best kind of term to start looking at ideas, because who knows where they're going to be by the time that deadline gets there. We don't know what their health is going to be like at that point. There could be some players that are disgruntled. It's not a need to rush these kind of moves in the summertime. I can even understand rushing or having this kind of energy at the deadline even more so than right now, just because they're coming off of a year where they were gelling. The young guys were looking good. Things were working. It's not like, again, none of these guys are behind or like holding the team back with the areas of their needs. Right. So as it stands right now, it's no need to kind of rush them out of the door. You can wait to hear about somebody being disgruntled from some team. We've seen even just this offseason alone, a lot of teams are rushing out a lot of deals that are kind of confusing to me. Like The Jordan Poole deal I thought was kind of odd. At
Washington,
least from the side of New
yeah.
Orleans, like Washington. Like,
Pelicans.
there's a lot of things that they're doing that's kind of a little odd to me. The Blazers, picking up for Drew Holiday, like
Anthony
you don't
Simons,
want to
yeah.
like I that was weird to me. Like you don't
Yeah,
want
me
to have
too.
those kind of moves. I'd rather at this point right now, knowing that they have areas to build on and a foundation to stand on, it's no need to rush and bring in something immediately, at least until there's no fire in this house right now. So let's let things build out and see how they're supposed to play out with this young core.
For sure. And then also too, waiting for the deadline gives you an additional few months to be able to evaluate what you have. Because like you mentioned, we haven't really seen these guys at full strength, right? Yep. So you can kind of get a look and kind of better idea of what you may need as you get closer to the trade deadline and teams on the opposite side are getting desperate. So it just makes sense that unless you get a perfect, deal that comes to your door tomorrow, to just kind of wait it out, see what you have, and have the confidence that making X move will make sense based on what you've seen from these guys together. You know what I mean? Right. So that's why I think it makes the most sense. We'll see what happens. You mentioned Ausar, and I want to get to him too. So some things that Trajan had to say about Ausar were that I thought it was very, very interesting. He said and it's not far-fetched at all. It's kind of, I think what we kind of saw for him is that he wants to, at some point, be Defensive Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. I thought that was dope. I thought it was cool to actually hear that. Because I think that's his defensive ceiling. I think he could definitely be Defensive Player of the Year, at least all defensive player. At least I think he can definitely do that for sure. So he also said that Trajan said he's working on getting stronger, getting in better shape, working on his abilities to get and create shots, improving shot creation, ball handling, and getting stronger are at the top of his list. And having a full off season will really help him to take that next jump. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I loved everything that he said about Ausar, especially the Defensive Player of the Year statement. Because in the NBA and in sports now, there's so many people who will undervalue. Even athletes do this. Like if they don't win an award, I don't care, I just won a championship. I don't care about this, I won a championship. I want this, I don't care about this, I want a championship. It's okay to have individual goals for yourself. It's okay to want to be an all-star. It's okay to want to win MVP. It's okay to want to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like those kind of milestones absolutely matter for your career. We're not going to undervalue that in the ring culture era, which has become a huge conversation lately. So I'm happy that the president of basketball operations kind of stamped that, saying, yeah, that's a goal that he set out for, and we support it as well. And they've done a good job of supporting him and his growth at the same time. They've been patient with him with the blood clot recovery. Bringing in Fred Vincent, like they didn't bring him in just because they need another coach. They brought him in because they had guys that are either bad or inconsistent shooters, and they want to see them get to as close as 40 as possible. So I believe that's what the vision was to bring Vincent in. It's like, hey, we got Ivy, Ron Holland, Ausar, even Cade. Like we have guys here that we're very high on, and we want to help you iron out their mechanics to get their shooting to where it's supposed to be. So they've done a great job of aiding Ausar's development and being patient with him. And I think this is going to only make him that much better now with the full off season to work with. Again, no health injuries to be worrying about. And again, putting on some muscle will definitely be huge for him as well. He's already got the speed. He's already got the length. So if he's able to push guys around, play passing lanes quicker, and, show a little bit of muscle in the paint, I think that'd be huge for him, especially when he's looking at things like Defensive Player of the Year for his trajectory. So I'm all for it. I'm really happy that he was openly speaking about that for the Pistons.
Yeah, how crazy would this be if Ausar and Amin were the first twins to be first team all defense? That would be wild. But it's not even far-fetched, bro. That's the crazy part. It just shows how good they can be defense. We've talked about it, how high their ceiling is defensively, man. That would be epic if they were able to accomplish that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of on their bucket list for sure. I did like how Trajan did make light of the time off that he was too with the blood clot. He mentioned that a couple times. I heard. I'm sure you heard that too. Yep. Just he's really looking forward to him having a full off season to be able to work on things that he really didn't get a chance to work on. Was pretty much trying to iron out through the season as he was getting acclimated. And we know that's not easy to do. That's why he really struggled early. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing him increase his conditioning, because there were games where he played like 25 minutes and things like that. So being another year removed from the blood clot and really be able to focus on conditioning and being able to focus on strength, all things that are going to make him a better player, not just defender, but better player as far as a shot creation, like you mentioned, all things that we talked about yesterday. As far as if you're going to be a starter, we're going to need you to give us something offensively, something, right? Something consistently that we can rely on. And I think he's going to get an opportunity this offseason with this team to really do that. So I'm really looking forward to him making the jump next year too, bro. And all these guys really have the room to make a really big jump next year. And I think that's why Trajan has still decided to not make any moves right now.
Exactly. All the tools and the resources are there for him. Again, knowing that he has and the teammates as well, they all have full belief in him. I mean, we saw a lot of the glimpses and the flashes, like the spin move against New York with the left-handed layup, dunking on people the way he has, coming out of nowhere for blindside blocks. Like, he's done a great job of showing of how great he can be. You want to see, like you said, a little bit of the offense kind of match it a little bit. May he never not be Scottie Pippen, like some other people have said.
Waiting for that.
Very possible. But you don't need him to be that. Again, just
Absolutely
give us
not.
a little something to work with for that energy. Even if it's, like you said, I don't think they're looking at him to become like this, just like a Cade level type of player. Like, I don't think that's what they're doing. I think you look at these young core guys and they all kind of have their own avenues and lanes and swing skills that will kind of push the Pistons in a different direction. We saw it with Jaden Ivey in the jump shot. Like, it unlocked a lot of things in their half court sets in terms of how him and Cade play next to each other. The passing between him and Duren and Ausar, that unlocked the ability for them to be on the floor together while there's so much question of whether or not they fit. They showed that they can, as long as they're kind of in their spots where they need to be, and as long as their timing is correct. So, yeah, I'm very high on what he can bring to this team, especially if it's based on where their biggest needs are, which is that perimeter defense and some of that self-creation that they're going to need at a certain point, along with that jump shot you talked about yesterday, like that little mid-range kind of not floater, but he's kind of leaning in a mid-range area and fading off. He's found some comfort with that, and I'd like to see that kind of take some steps forward as well.
Right. I think that's the shot creation that work that they're probably going to be doing this offseason with him. So, and it just helps to have a coach like JB Bickerstaff who is great at developing guys. Right. We saw all these guys take leaps last year. So a full offseason for Ausar is definitely going to help. I think we're going to see some improvement for him offensively next year for sure. Maybe not in the way we think. Maybe not being the Lou Dort type of guy that is a good three-point shooter, and that's pretty much it offensively, but maybe finding other ways, like you just mentioned, to really be effective consistently offensively. So I'm looking to see how they intend to do that next season. But the sky's the limit, man.
For sure.
Few more we got here. Ron Holland and Bobby Klintman came up. I was happy to hear about this. Two of my favorite players, man. So Trajan said Ron is getting better. And Trajan is excited for him to play in Summer League, for both of them to play in Summer League. He says Ron and Bobby have versatility on both ends. They can handle and score it, and both have been working on shot creation as well and getting stronger as well, which is very important for young guys. So in reaction to Bobby Klintman and Ron Holland obviously going to be in Summer League, and then what Trajan may be looking for them from them next season.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot to prove as well. I think Ron obviously sees some time coming off the bench for the Pistons. And I think Bobby's going to have an opportunity to make some noise too. If they don't find an upgrade in the free agency or do the trade market to land another 4 or a stretch 4, I think that's going to open up a time or a window for him to play. I know you're excited about that. I wouldn't rule it out at all. I think we saw a lot of good things from him through the G League for those who paid attention. And even in that, short stretches that he had, in the last game against the Bucks, just those little plays that we saw of him being able to be a connector in terms of making secondary passes, being a good rebounder, being a really good plus defender in, open space, in isolation. He's shown really the ability to do a lot of the dirty work and that connecting that the Pistons really need. So I'm very high on where they can be. Again, where that lands them, we're not really sure, but again, I like what they could bring next season. And I think this is, again, we talked about being make or break, or at least being a window of opportunity for these young guys. Those two for sure are definitely in that conversation because they have a lot to prove. Ron came on pretty strong, throughout the year as the season progressed. Didn't see him a lot in the postseason, which I'm not worried about at all.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sure that was great motivation for him. And I feel like that'll be very evident when we see them on the floor.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to see I feel like I know we've seen more of Ron, so I obviously want to see him, but I just want to see Bobby Klintman get more opportunity, bro. Of course, Trajan mentioned that he has to get stronger. There were some times when he got some run last year in those last 2 games against the Bucks where you saw he just needed to get a little bit stronger, which is natural for every young player, like Trajan mentioned. But you just saw on the offensive end, bro. You cover the NFL, so you know how QBs always talk about being able to see the play before it happens. Yeah. And I see that a lot with him. Like the game is moving slow for him. He makes mistakes, obviously, but you can tell that he understands what he's looking at. And he's making the right pass more times than not. And he's doing it with flair because he already knows what's about to happen. So he's just having fun. Like things like that, when you see it's like, oh, this is okay. He understands. He understands the game. He sees the game very, very well to be so young. So yeah, go ahead.
I'm very high on young players who have that skill because I feel like shooting is one thing. Like I feel like a lot of guys either have it or they don't. And I feel like having the ability to pass, not just pass, but as you say, be able to be an anticipatory passer where you can see the play before it happens, knowing the guy's spots, knowing where they're going to be as you deliver it. Like that's just a different feel. And a lot of players, sometimes it takes a while to get there. A lot of players kind of just come in and have it. Like Cade has been a natural passer his whole career. I feel like Ivy is a very underrated passer and a very willing passer as well. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a good make of this team. You see a lot of guys that are just willing passers. Ausar, JD, you're a very willing passer. Like I like these guys are able to set their teammates up for these looks, and I think that's huge for them. And I think Bobby kind of falling into that same role and even being in position as like an off-ball shooter and scorer as well is going to open up a lot of opportunity for him. So I really am hoping that we do get a chance to see him kind of blended in for maybe 10 minutes with the main roster this season.
For sure, bro. Like some guys you see where on one hand, you see they don't have the natural gifts, but you see they understand how to play the game and that keeps them on the floor. And they see other guys who haven't learned how to play team ball, but they're great individual scorers. Like, for example, like a Benedict Mathurin, like he's a good offensive player. He's a good one-on-one player. Right. But you can see at times he kind of gets lost within the offense with what to do. I think that's the only thing holding a guy like him back, especially playing for Rick Carlisle, who's very team-oriented when it comes to basketball, offensively and defensively. I think that may be why a guy like him was in the doghouse. But a guy like Bobby Clemens seems to have both. He seems to be able to go get a bucket if he needs to, but he also seems to understand how to play team ball. So like you mentioned, having that so young, I think he's 22. Like I do see him in the rotation next season, like you said, unless we get a guy this offseason. And honestly, that'll kind of tell us where he is as far as understanding, what coach is looking for on both ends. If we go and get a guy, maybe he's not there yet. If we don't, then maybe he is. So someone mentioned, and I thought this was important too. I think Ethan said this here. It says Klintman needs to spend the year up with the team, even if he's not getting a lot of minutes. If he's down in the G League again, I won't expect him to be a rotational guy. That could be very true. It's hard to say. A lot of it, sometimes you see guys going back and forth just to stay warm, stay ready and things like that. But it will be nice to see him, with the team, kind of brought up more often. And that, once again, that'll kind of determine on him and how coach feels he is in his progression.
Yeah, I think Summer League is going to determine a lot. I feel like he's going to be a big focal point of what they do. He was last season too, but I feel like now if he kind of has moments where he's standing out, where him and Ron are, feeding off of each other and whatnot, I feel like the coaches are going to take notice of that. I know JB spends a lot of time paying attention to the G League guys. Like he's very tapped in to what they're doing with Coach McMillan. So I definitely feel like there's going to be an opportunity for him if he has the ability to show out in Summer League. I definitely anticipate that it can happen, and I'm very excited for it as well. I'm as high on Bobby as you are.
Man, yeah, we've been talking about this since the beginning of, I think, last season Summer League when it first started last year. And I think the first or second game, I text you text me like, bro, you watch? I'm like, yeah, I'm watching him. I see it too. Who is this guy? Yeah, for sure. So that 37th pick, man, definitely showed up for sure.
And now we're back at 37 again.
And now we're back again at 37. So maybe I should keep my eyes more open with that 37th pick, especially with Trajan picking. But we'll see. We'll see, man. I wanted to get this in kind of a side note, but I did see this question here. Aaron Smith says, thoughts on Marcus Sasser getting more playing time next season? It's hard to say right now, just because there's so many things that have to be kind of settled upon with, guys, like I mentioned, guys who missed time last year, didn't get the opportunity. Now they're going to get that chance. So I think roles are going to be defined as we kind of get closer to the season, maybe a little bit later than we may even like, but just because because so many things need to be ironed out, I think once we get to training camp. So that's kind of my thought. it could kind of go either way for me. I don't know if he'll have a consistent role, but maybe he'll have a bigger role because he really didn't have much of a role last year. It was kind of really spotty for him. What are your thoughts on Marcus Sasser getting more playing time next season? You think it's a possibility or not so much, more so outside looking in? What do you think?
I feel like whatever Trajan does in free agency will kind of answer that question, because I feel like they were very optimistic about what they saw out of Dennis Schroeder, with the team, helping out as that veteran backup point guard that also could blend in the fourth quarter with the closing lineup as well. And I feel like if they go after, like, honestly, one guy I was kind of interested in to see if maybe he could be like a stopgap guy was Drew Holiday before he just got dealt. I don't know if Portland's interested in moving him again, but to me, I'm more interested in seeing them have a guy like that than leaning on everybody just being a young guy on the team. So, I mean, we've kind of seen that for the last few seasons where a lot of these young guys that are on the roster now, or even last season with Bagley or Wiseman, Killian, like a lot of these guys that obviously didn't, pan out, but they're still in the same situation where they're looking to see how much value that these young guys could bring. So Sasser is kind of in that same situation right now. I mean, obviously we didn't see him in the playoffs at all. But I'm not really sure. They kind of played him in a lot of different positions where one stretch he's, their primary backup point guard where he's trying to pass and facilitate. And then there's other times where he's realizing that he's a heater and that he can just get hot at any point. And he had some big games where he was able to show out even on Big Sean's birthday. I don't know. I think, again, I'm going to wait till free agency to kind of answer that question. I don't think they're ruling it out because, again, I think a lot of the teammates and a lot of guys on that roster are high on Sasser. Yeah. But I think free agency is going to tell us a little bit more based on what the margins that Trajan was talking about. He said he wanted to, find ways to upgrade those margins. Where Sasser is in that rotation is the exact definition of a margin upgrade. So I think free agency will tell us exactly what we need to know.
I agree, bro. I think I was thinking about it too. I think Sasser needs to carve out a defined role for what he's going to be for this team. You think about most guys who are in the rotation, what their role is. And I think for Sasser, he's a bucket getter. I know last season they tried him out at point guard, trying to learn the offense. He just doesn't seem to. That's not a strength. He's a bucket. I would like to see him when he comes into the game looking to be a Vinnie Johnson, who is a dog defensively. Yeah. Because he's already not the biggest guard in the world. I think he's 6 feet 6'1". So if he can be a dog defensively, kind of carve out if it's there, maybe not to the same level, but a TJ McConnell kind of role offensively and defensively on both ends, where you're just giving out all out effort defensively, giving everything you have, doing things that teams can't scout for. As far as just making those plays, going for the 50-50 balls, just giving out all effort. And then offensively, being opportunistic on offense. When it's there for you, just go and get it. That's kind of my thought on Sass. What do you think?
One of my favorite Pistons of all time that I got to watch during the 04 days was Mike James. I want Sasser to watch film on him.
Shout out Mike James.
I feel like that's a guy who, again, he wasn't – when him and Lindsey came in, neither of them were like pure – elite level playmaking point guards. They lean on their defense and scoring in transition. Well, I mean, while Sasser does have a better offensive bag than those guys, I feel like what you just spoke to with his defense and kind of being that energy plug in that area, I think can maybe push him in a different direction. That could be his swing skill, is upping his defense and finding a way to play in space and with speed along with the other second unit guys. Right. I feel like Mike James would be a good guy for him to study. I feel like that's a little more suited to his skill because I don't ever know if he's going to become like that kind of, playmaking level guard. Like it's just not in his game. He can pass a little bit, but it's just not where he exceeds at. And I feel like taking advantage of what he's best at, especially coming off the bench where they need more scoring anyway, I think he would be very suitable for that.
Mike who? Mike James. Mike Jones. I like it, Ricky. Yeah, for that's a great reference you use too, as far as just him and Lindsey, bro. Because for anybody who who didn't experience the 04 championship and who's seen the highlights, go back and look up Mike James, Lindsey Hunter. Anywhere on YouTube you can find. In the first quarter of the first round series in that 04 run, they played the Bucks. And Lindsey and Mike James had a sequence where they had like 2 or 3 straight steals in the backcourt. Yep. You had the two of them doubling, at the inbounding the ball, the two of them doubling, and then you would see Ben Wallace playing safety. right? Ben, and they would either get a steal in the ball at the point of attack, or that you see Ben picking it off. So like those guys just came into the game impacting, with making an impact. And it wasn't always, we always talk about that. Guys like Ron Holland, Isaiah Stewart, don't have to score, but are impact players because of the things they do in other areas and just giving out all out energy and effort. That's what I could see. That's a great reference, bro. That's a great example as far as Mike James. That's pretty, because Mike James wasn't a big guy either. I think he was 6'2" on a good day,
all, right?
maybe. And Lindsey was 6'1", 6'2", right? And he was part of the Sheed deal. So if that kind of deal is going to come to your door, bro, I mean, yeah, like why wait until the trade deadline if you get something like that? If you're not giving up too much and you get a guy like Sheed and a guy like a Mike James to go along with it, and you're only giving up not a lot, you know what I mean? Yeah, you make that move. But great comparison, bro. I definitely agree with you on that. A few more things and then we'll call it, man. Cade. You talked about Cade briefly. I thought that was pretty interesting. He said he spoke to Cade's hunger this summer. And we haven't really heard a lot from Cade. Cade has been quiet like he usually is, real low key, how he usually is, but he's putting in work. That usually means he's putting in work. And he said that Cade is hungry as of right now. And he said that these guys got a taste of it and you want to get it again. And these guys have the hunger and Cade has that hunger. Thoughts on that, bro? As far as, because we always talk about Cade, you know, he making a leap. He made a leap last season in great fashion. First All-Star game, All-NBA. But I still personally think there are some leaps that he can make, more levels that he can get to in his game. So what are your thoughts on what he had to say about Cade and the rest of the team having that taste of the playoffs?
Cade might be hungry for a different level of fame too. He didn't go on Hollywood with the Jimmy Kimmel
what?
all that.
Yeah.
That was cool to see. I like
it was
because he also doesn't have like a super outgoing, like he kind of got that same kind of dry personality. So to see him on TV kind of acting out has been pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, he knows it's gonna come with the work too. I feel like even though they didn't win in the first round with the Knicks, I feel like everything that happened this season was great validation and a great peak of how great he can be and how great the Pistons can be under his leadership. Cade has every tool in his bag to be the best point guard in the East for sure and contended for the NBA. Like I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but Cade is a better playmaker and he has his own case to become the next point guard face of the NBA. Especially in that conversation too, where you know they're so determined, like the media is so determined to stamp out that new face of the league, whether it's Wemby and Edwards. Like Cade has an argument to be one of those guys in the discussion.
He's getting mentioned with those guys now.
Yeah, absolutely. And he deserves it 100%. I feel like there are definitely areas of improvement that he can make. Definitely want to see him, stay a little more dialed in as an off-ball defender. Sometimes he kind of sinks a little low and allows a lot of three-pointers to kind of get cashed in. Obviously, his own three-point shot needs to be a little bit more consistent, especially if they're going to lean on guys in the young core that are not proven shooters yet. That's going to lean on him to kind of be that guy to pick it up between him and Ivy, to be honest with you. And obviously the turnovers. Again, I'm not one of the ones that, over harp on how bad or how many turnovers he has. To me, it's when the turnovers happen that bother me. So when he's, in the fourth quarter against the Knicks and, they're down 2 or they're trying to, build their lead and then he turns it over, then that's a bigger problem than, he has 3 turnovers in the first quarter. Who cares? Right. Doesn't matter. Like those fourth quarter late game moments or whenever the momentum is swinging for the opponent, that's when you want him locked in. And he showed a lot of times where, I don't know if maybe he was just tired or not locked in, but sometimes he was turning the ball over, getting a little loose. But I mean, we all know what Cade is, man. He finished 7th in MVP voting, All-Star season. He'll have another one coming up next year, and I think he'll get his right due as an All-NBA selection above the guys who don't deserve it ahead of him, Steph Curry. But I think we all know what Cade is, and I'm really excited to see what his trajectory looks like with a full, healthy season around his guys, hopefully.
Exactly. That's all I want to see. I just want to see all these guys, the young guys, play together for a full season and see how it looks after that. Right. So, 100%, man. Shout out to Cade, man. Great season. Couldn't ask for much more from a Pistons fan looking at how last year went. So, yeah, man. I did have a question in here I wanted to get to separate from the quotes we talked about, but just I saw the thought was interesting. So, Devon says, I hope Beasley doesn't get paid. He's solid for us, but not worth no more than 12 to 15. I think that's a fair market, though. I mean, because you think about it, he only made $6 million this year, which is a bargain, absolute bargain. So double him up for sure. I wouldn't mind giving him 12 to 15. I don't think you see too many guys, even in sixth man bench roles getting, that much more north of that. So I think that's fair. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't mind the number at all. And I know I've seen this follow up. He said he's a bit one dimensional just as a shooter. You need that though. The NBA,
Yeah.
you need a guy that can just go on the heater. There were how many times like we saw in the Sacramento game on the road where they were down like damn near double digits, and he just went on a heater of 3 straight. And he's not just hitting wide open shots where the defenders are forgetting about him. He's hitting these shots in their face. Like he's contested. He found the ability to kind of create his own shots or find space created from the other guards around him. And again, having that from a veteran, I think is important. Trajan talked a lot about, in the draft that there are a lot of guards and wings that they have on their board that they're interested in.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but I feel like rushing them to be the immediate replacement of Beasley is kind of a big ask for a rookie. So I feel like it's important to kind of have some veterans that can kind of lead them in slowly. And then maybe if you want to look at other options on how you handle Beasley and his contract in the next couple of years, I'm fine with that. But I feel like for right now, they don't really have the ability to kind of just let him go. I feel like maybe bringing him and THJ might be a little repetitive, but I think Beasley has done enough, especially, with his campaign as 6th man of the year, which he should have won.
Yep.
I feel like he's done a lot in terms of leadership, in terms of, helping grow and establish the foundation of this team. And he wants to be here too. How many free agents have said, I want to be in Detroit? I feel like you should capitalize on that instead of scrambling out for replacements, hoping the grass is greener on the other side. I feel like he's, worth what we're asking for. I don't think it's a problem at all.
Yeah, man. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but he was one of the most important players in this team last year. You have to bring him back. As long as it's not astronomical what he's asking for, which I don't think is going to happen because he's like you said, he wants to be here. Right. I think they're going to come to an agreement. But Devon, I'm going to push back here, bro, because you said that we can't talk about Tech and act like Beasley is kind of the. I think you meant to say they're not the same. Act like they're not the same. They are. Yeah. Here's the difference. Well, here's the thing. He's talking about as far as them being catch and shoot guys primarily. Okay. That is very true. But the difference is that one guy made him and one didn't.
Yeah.
If Fonseca was knocking down, let's just say, let's say he was shooting 37%, 38% from 3 last year. Nobody would be upset, even though he is one-dimensional, right? So as long as you are a star in that role, it doesn't really matter because that's, like you said, B's catch and shoot guy primarily, Tech catch and shoot. But when you're not effective at the thing that you're best at, that's when it becomes a problem. Yep. Beasley was very, very effective at the thing that he was best at. Right. Fonseca was very ineffective in the thing that he's best at. And that's why it's a stark contrast between those two guys. Because like you said, you got to have guys who are going to bring that consistency in that role. It's very, very important to have that stability and consistency. And he brings you that. He brings you the confidence. He brings you the vibes, man. Like guys in this team like him. They like playing with him. And he supports these guys. I think the off-the-court stuff, too, is pretty important, too. He uplifts this team. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that. Keep going. You cooking.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. JB talked about that a lot. Again, obviously the on-court stuff speaks for itself. He's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league last season, but the preparation and the mental preparation for the playoffs, the end of the season, training, how to keep your body right. Him, Tobias, THJ, and Paul Reed, they were huge in keeping the young guys basically prepared for that moment. So now next season, when they get to the playoffs, they're not going to have as many questions as they did coming in before. Right. And I feel like he was instrumental in a lot of that. Even the fun stuff, like we all enjoyed like seeing them like do the little modeling runway stuff in the back, playing football before the game. Like that kind of stuff makes the game fun. Yeah, the shimmy, like, come on, man. Like, I think he's done a lot to kind of show that he's a big foundational piece to what this team needs. Like, again, you don't want to be running around scrambling for guys thinking, oh, maybe we can just bring in KCP to fill him in. And KCP was horrible last season. Like, you don't want to be fishing around for those kind of guys. So if you were to bring him back, it's not like you would be doing it out of desperation. We know what he's capable of. So maybe he doesn't finish 40% from 3 next season, but it's at least warranted based on what he gave you last season. He didn't struggle. He wasn't injured a lot. Like, he was relatively healthy, playing as a starter and a bench player. So, I feel like he's a huge priority piece that should be back next season for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely, bro. Totally agree, man. They played him on a lot of stuff last year, bro. Between Anthony Edwards taking 17 threes in the last game to get the 3-point title and them snubbing him for 6-man and them snubbing him for the 3-point contest. Like, come on, bro. Like, y'all really did my man dirty last year, bro.
Big time. Big time.
Man.
I know he got a lot of motivation in his back, especially after how the playoffs ended as well. He's got a lot of motivation going into next season for sure.
Yeah, for sure, bro. For sure. Any more thoughts on the pre-draft presser today? And then one more thing we're going to get to, and then we'll get out of here.
I feel like he was pretty straightforward with a lot of it, man. I think a lot of people just need to kind of relax. Again, Trajan has done a great job. He's done, he hasn't gone above and beyond in terms of doing too much in his position. He's gotten great value out of guys that we didn't expect a whole lot from coming into the season. Like, I don't think people thought Tobias was going to be one of the better defenders on the Pistons. I don't think a lot of people thought that Beasley would be one of the best shooters in the NBA, even though he's already noted as a great shooter. We just saw a lot from these guys, and I feel like Trajan did a really good job of keeping his mind open, being transparent about what his thoughts are with the front office in terms of the draft, the free agency, and just offseason altogether. It feels like he's pretty in sync with understanding that these guys do have value and potential, and they want to see a little bit more of it, especially when they haven't been healthy for a full season yet. So, again, it's a lot to weigh in with this season, and I'm pretty excited about to see what they can do.
Yeah, man, it's going to be nice to be able to kind of kick our feet up a little bit as fans, knowing that this team is in good hands, knowing that, Trajan Langdon understands what he's doing. He understands what he's doing, and there's a synergy between coach and GM and owner. That's one thing that I think is very, very important, is that they're all on the same page. He said today, we all feel this way about various things. He said, we all feel like that, and we all see it that way, making reference to the other guys who are part of the decision-making process. So, yeah, man, it's going to be nice I'm looking forward with excitement to see what happens this offseason, as opposed to with angst like I have in previous decades with this team. So it's going to be nice. The PTSD is slowly dripping off me, bro. Slowly but surely. Slowly, man. You know what I mean? One more thing we'll get to when we get out of here separate. So earlier today, bro, you tweeted out that the Pistons have been linked to having interest in Memphis Grizzlies center Santi Aldama. Right? The Pistons, among other teams like the Nets, the Wizards, and the Hawks, have all shown interest in him. And last year, I think he made about $2 million. Very he's in his rookie deal, obviously. So he becomes a restricted free agent this offseason. I think he's going to be commanding somewhere around $11 million or something like that. But we'll see, because it's unclear what the Grizzlies are going to do with him being a restricted free agent. So we got to wait and see. What was your reaction to that report, bro? You tweeted out early today. Is this somebody you will be interested in the Pistons adding or no?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I feel like his game is very predicated on what they need based on what their bench looks like right now. Played 25 minutes roughly for the Grizzlies last season, averaging 12 and a half off the bench, shooting 48% from the field, 37% from three. Pretty good rebounder, giving you 6 off the glass. And he's a guy that, kind of like we talked about with Malik Beasley, he's a guy that you can play with your starting lineup and you're not going to miss a beat with what he gives you. Like if Tobias is starting and then he comes off the bench and he sits for a minute, he can go on a heater and spread the floor and do a lot of other things as well. He's got a nice little creative handle to himself. He's well capable of creating his own shot and knocking down contested looks as well as a 7-footer. I think that's very important for what they need. They said they wanted to look for a stretch big. And I felt like a lot of the names that were out there just kind of seemed a little far-fetched. Like, I don't see Miles Turner being possible. I like the idea of Naz Reid. But yeah, I don't think Miles Turner is very possible in terms of luring him into the Pistons. Brook Lopez is a Piston killer, so he definitely don't want to come here.
Yeah.
I like Santi Aldama. I think he's kind of a safe acquisition that could be a stopgap kind of guy that, to me, elevates what you were supposed to have already with Fontecchio. I feel like he's a much more improved version. And as a 7-footer, I think he would be huge here for this lineup.
If he's going to play in that Fontecchio role, then I don't have a problem with that, especially at that amount. One thing about Fontecchio that I did notice is that defensively he does shade the ball well. Like he does play off ball defense pretty well, right? He doesn't get caught on back doors, and he pretty much understands how to play defense. Right. He's not the most athletic guy or flashy guy or glamorous guy, but he does a solid job as far as ball denial, not allowing easy hoops and things like that. So I do like that. I don't know if Aldama has that mobility being 7 feet. You would have to kind of use him a little bit differently, kind of shift your rotation as far as who's guarding those wings. Maybe a guy like Ron Holland, you have that, do something like that, but it wouldn't be a perfect fit. For that reason, I do want to give Fontecchio some credit because he was a willing defender and an active defender and pretty mobile as far as, like I said, pretty successful as far as playing off-ball defense. So I want to give him credit for that. The positive, I think, adding a guy like Santi Aldama is, like you mentioned, we just talked about it, but for a different reason, him being a true 7-footer. The Pistons don't have a 7-footer in the roster right now, stretch or non-stretch. They don't have a 7-footer in the roster. But personally, I think if the Pistons were to add him, I know you mentioned, and you made a good point about him being able to start if needed. I don't want to see him as a permanent starter. Even if you wanted to play him as, as a big 4 next to JD at the 4, I'd rather do that instead of the 5, or have him play with Nas Reed, something like that. But if you want to add him as a backup 4 or 5, I'm cool with that. If you think he could be an upgrade over, like you said, maybe a Fontecchio or maybe a Paul Reed or something like that. I like Paul Reed, but if you think, Aldama's better, then it makes sense. Okay. But I personally think that the cap could be better spent if you're looking to add a starter. I don't know if Santi Aldama is a starter on a championship level team. Right. And that's no shade to him. I just don't know if he fits that mold, especially defensively in the playoffs. I saw some things that were a little bit alarming. So, not a huge sample size, but I think I would look to have him kind of bolster that bench if you're going to bring him in for that kind of role. If you're going to spend the money, I think, you said it, Nas Reed makes more sense to me. Giving you that nice 3 big rotation. I know he's not a 7-footer, but it gives you a nice 3-man rotation with him, JD, and Stu. And hopefully a guy like Bobby Klintman, getting opportunities. We talked about that at the 4, maybe. And, try to use that cap to fill a bigger need. That's kind of what direction I would go. But if they're looking to make him a backup guy and backup 4 or something like that, I'm cool with that. If the right price is not, as long as you're not breaking the bank for it.
A guy that I think I had a nice little comp earlier. I got one more for Santi that he could possibly be. He wasn't the best defender when he was a Piston, but one thing that he was great at was taking charges and beating his defender or beating his opposition to the spot. He can study a guy like Ersan Ilyasova. Like, if you have a guy like that can just knock down some shots, step in and take some charges every so often. Like, again, he wasn't a lockdown guy, and he kind of played starter until Tobias was traded for him. I feel like he can be sufficient enough with that in a 20-minute span. He's definitely not a guy that you want to rely on for 30-plus minutes. But if he can kind of stop some plays and change the momentum with a couple charges here and there, knock down some threes, I don't see why he can do that. Obviously, for a 7-footer, it'll be a little tougher, but I feel like, that's something that he can work on with his game and his footwork, as he's learning the game.
No, and my initial reaction was no, but I have to remind myself, Ilyasova started.
Yeah.
So he was going against starters consistently. So if you were to put him in a backup 4 role, playing against not him playing his starters every single night all the time, that would be something I could get behind that, bro. I think that's actually a good comp now that I think about it. The way they play the game, pretty reliable from 3. I think Santi's like 37 career or something like that from 3. So that's solid, But yeah, I'm not mad at that. And he's actually, what was Ilyasova, like 6'10"? He wasn't even a 7-footer, I don't think.
Yeah, no, he wasn't
6'10".
He was like 6'9", 6'10". Yeah.
6'9", 6. Okay, yeah. So if you got a guy like that off your bench, yeah, I'm with that for sure. Yeah, I like it. Anything else you got for us, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm excited for the draft to get here. I think free agency starts next week. We got a lot of good stuff coming up in this offseason. Hope y'all stay locked in with us. Really excited about where the team is going. And it should be a lot of things to take out for, man. It should be a pretty fun time.
Yeah, man. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Eric's YouTube channel, Top Title Sports. Make sure you guys go over there, Top Top Title Detroit. My bad. Is it Detroit Sports? What is it? Give me the official name.
It was Top Title Sports. I changed it and just kind of kept it local for right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's back to Top Title Detroit.
Title Detroit. Okay, y'all go check him out, man. He's got great content over there. And as we get closer and closer to training camp and summer league, he's going to have that exclusive for you guys. Like I always mention, a lot of the things you guys see on my YouTube comes from this man right here giving me access to it. So y'all want to make sure y'all stay tapped in with him because, you know, you can get directly from him. You won't even need me. You know, just go straight to him. Check it out. For real. It is what it is. But anyway, that's a wrap on tonight's episode, guys. It's been a great episode, man. I'm looking forward to getting deeper and deeper into the offseason and seeing what happens. But yeah, man, it's been great having you here. We appreciate you guys always showing love and showing out as you guys always do. It's been great conversation, and we will be back soon. As soon as we have some more updates, we will be back with you guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Downtown Deuce channel, like, comment, subscribe, show love to your boys always. And we will catch you guys on the next episode. And y'all know what it is, man. Detroit versus everybody. Peace.
And when you knock me down, I'm getting back up. Cause when I step on the floor, you know your time's up. I'm on my way up and I'm not gonna stop. We headed straight to the top in the low. I gotta face it.